The MoneroTopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
How's it go, man?
It's good. Good work, Tux. It's fucking awesome, man. We've I know everyone is like, "Dude, you can't beg the corporate." Like, listen, Monero's money. If you want Monero to be money, then the non-privacy honeypots have to accept it as much as the privacy respecting Chad email servers.
And I feel like this was such an easy win too, because people had been asking for years, and no team engaged in this way like the Proton VPN general manager did. So I'm like, this is an easy win, really.
Yeah, seriously.
Good stuff.
I even signed the petition. The fact we hit 1,000 in a week on a petition site that's like not privacy respecting at all.
Yeah.
I signed it with an email, that they know who I am or whatever, because I used it a long time ago in the day, back in the day. And then my real name popped up. I was like, wait, motherfucker. It's like, well, too late now.
Yeah, see, that was next time I'll use not change that org. I didn't realize how it's kind of not the most privacy respecting, but it doesn't ask for like your phone number. That could be worse.
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, like anyone that wants to know my real name is, it's not going to be that hard to find out. Like it's pretty easy to figure out.
OPSEC low.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, come on, you're on a podcast. I've shown my face. My voice is recognizable. Like even people at the MoneroTopia are like, wait, you're Body, aren't you? Like, shit. Just trying to stay low. Didn't want anyone to know.
Yeah, you're out there. not as much as me, but you're out there.
Yeah, it's over.
Buddy, what'd you think the helicopter, man?
It's awesome, man. If I flew helicopters, I would probably jump on it. How much are they selling it for?
That's a good question. I think it was like 1,800 Monero. 1,800.
I guess that's about $500,000.
Oh, 2,000. Yeah, 2,000 Monero.
I don't know what the market for helicopters is. You can get into an airplane for, it won't be a great airplane, but you can get into one that'll get you around a little bit for like 150, 100 pretty easily. Wow. If you're willing to spend 300,
kind of like boats, right? It's like they're like if you're willing to buy used, I imagine you can get your hands on some nice ones.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everyone does buy used when it comes to airplane. Like, so few people are going to actually go buy a brand new airplane. I mean, you might, but you're probably going to be loaded. If you do, you're very likely going to have a lot of money.
This thing is like so minimalistic, though. I love it. It's very bare bones.
Yeah, it doesn't have any glass in there. There's no modern avionics. I mean, it's fine, I suppose. You can pull your cell phone out.
I don't know. It feels like you're like flying a lawnmower or something. That's wild.
Yeah. I'm not much of a. It's probably an irrational fear, but I'm not much for helicopters personally. I'm scared of them. It's a fear thing. I mean, I know you got the auto rotation, but I don't know. I'll take a glider over auto rotation any day.
What's the auto?
If it chooses for like any reason at all, you're just falling out of the sky.
So auto rotation is so believe it or not, like when you push the engine power, you're moving something called collective, which changes the angle of the blades, and changing that angle increases your lift. So you don't actually like increase to super fast RPMs, to get off the ground in a helicopter. You push the collective, and so if you lose your engine, you're going to start dropping, but it's not a problem. You're going to auto rotate all the way down, which means you're basically using that rotation of the blade to somewhat slow your descent, and then at the last second they call it dumping your collective, which basically just means you turn the angle of the blades way up to get suddenly that moment that you can get all this extra resistance because your blades already have this momentum. So you can turn the blade up, and you're going to get a little bit of lift right before you hit the ground, and you time it right, and then you can actually put the thing on the ground without like hurting anyone or hurting yourself. The thing that kills people in helicopters is well, in all aircraft, if you get inverted on accident because you're in the weather. But the thing in helicopters, if you clip that tail rotor on anything and you're like 30 feet up, like there's no time to auto rotate, and you have to immediately pull the power and get on the ground, because once you clip that tail rotor and you don't have that pressure to act against the inertia or whatever, I don't know what the technical term is, but to act against that rotation, like you're just spinning, and you're done. Like you have to get on the ground. So anyways, I just don't trust helicopters. Probably maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, but people claim that that's the auto rotator is technically like safer than just gliding a plane. I see people making that comment. I find that hard to believe.
It just everything depends. If you're in I would probably take my chances in a helicopter on an engine loss if I was over a crowded city, because you can at least go straight down and you can find a spot to put it down. It's really hard to land an airplane in a crowded city in a dense populated area. You have to try and hit the road. You're going to clip the power line. The wing's going to burst into flames. Or if there's trees everywhere, then you got to land in the trees, or if there's a lot of terrain. So yeah, I mean, there definitely are cases where engine loss in helicopters is better than airplane. You have more options in airplane, I believe, though.
I mean, forget Monero van. We need the Monero helicopter flying around, throwing stickers out the window.
That thing would look sick with a Monero logo on it. Seriously.
Right? Well,
it is a nice looking helicopter. I'll be honest. Sleek.
Helicopter too dangerous. I'd take a plane. Yeah, I agree. That's what we're all saying. I agree. All right, buddy. Take it away, man.
All right. Let's see. We got the price here. Going to talk about some price. Let me get my I'm always trying to get this thing just right. There we go. Okay. So we haven't really done too much. A little bit of movement towards the upside for Monero price over the past week. Kind of like, again, consolidating with the sort of upward bias. Let's see, waiting on that wave magic to load. I guess this looks fine. Like I said last week, in general, if we expect the rest of the market to go up, and I do at this point, I expect Monero to follow with it. So we did see Bitcoin. Wait, what is this? Oh, wrong one. We did see Bitcoin make its way towards the upside, right? We did see Bitcoin manage to consolidate, moving towards the upside. It still, hasn't set new all-time highs, but this is the kind of consolidation that you want to see. This is the kind of action that you want to see to expect, to believe that that new highs are on the table. So I do think that there is still a reasonably solid chance, a much higher chance, that Bitcoin and crypto and risk in general is ready to pounce. Stocks have been running already. Stocks are already at new all-time highs. Like we talked about last week, we're kind of witnessing there. It seems like they've been able to finagle the markets by like putting it on the drama coaster of saying, "Oh, things are really bad. Oh, actually, no, we removed the bad. So don't worry," or "It's not as bad as we thought," right? They're juicing the markets. They're squeezing the markets higher and higher. And they're just, I don't know, they're just able to do it. And like I said, the feels, for the past few weeks, I've kind of been like, hey, the feels, I don't necessarily have the best technical indicators to tell you where the market's going to go, but the feels and the news cycle and everything with the way that, like, again, just the way it feels, right? The intuition of the market psychology has been, hey, upside. People don't want to see any macro crash. They don't want to hear any macro crash. And that's they've been able to move the markets higher. There wasn't really World War III. We were kind of almost promised World War III. It didn't happen. I don't know. That's good though. That's a good thing, right? Like, good that we don't have war. We don't want war. Fuck war. And fuck the people that prosecute war. Okay. So yeah, with Monero here, I guess this thing's gonna go up. We just gotta wait a little bit longer. I mean, remember, Monero tends to move counter-cyclically to the market. It tends to go in starts and fits. when we get price action, usually it's countercyclically to the rest of crypto and Bitcoin. So currently, I guess overall Monero has still kind of held flat relative to Bitcoin. We're still sort of hanging out at these bands. Again, I don't really super duper trust necessarily all the time the TA when it comes to XMR BTC. But you know, maybe let's try and draw a line here. Does that make sense? I guess that line could make sense. Let me change the color there. You know, so maybe like this is support right here, but you'd have said last week, hey, that was support right there, right? If you try to go off of lines, you would have said that. So I don't know. Honestly, this feels a little bit like breakdown. This feels like if this wanted to be support and then go to the upside on XMR BTC, I feel like it kind of should have already held, right? This support, you don't want to be back in here in this zone like, oh, we're going to break out and then not really and then come back down. So technically, that's not great price action. And it would make sense if we expect markets to pump and BTC is about to follow, break out to new all-time highs. I do kind of expect that, you know, Monero's going to lag behind there. That's just how that happens, right? It's rare to see Monero pumping alongside with BTC. So that's just the unfortunate truth. It's the horrible reality of these markets. But maybe we can look at Monero versus Ethereum. This chart is much more, it's nicer to look at for everyone that loves privacy and hates pre-mines and stuff like that. So yeah, it looks, you know, kind of the same. We're basically, we've made this big rebound after all the bullshit, you know, the induced bullshit. We've made this big rebound. We're actually, like, we are now at, and not only at the bear market highs relative to Ethereum. So the bear market highs, I know that sounds weird, but you know, Monero performing well in the bear market, right? Performing relatively better. So our relative performance to ETH in the bear market, you know, was back here in 2022. And we are at that same level. So that's actually, you know, that's a really good sign. ETH is a major player. Like, no matter what you want to like be angry about with ETH, be madder at Tron, right? Be madder at Justin Sun, and be the most mad at Tether, even though everybody uses it, unfortunately. Guilty. So anyways, yeah, looking good, looking like staying up here around this level and consolidating at this level is a good indication that maybe Monero could go higher. The TA would suggest, I mean, with this kind of TA structure, unless there's fundamental reasons for this chart to continuously be bearish, and I don't think that's the case, we would expect eventually for Monero to make it back up to this level right there. But you know, that's I'm not calling for that next week or anything. Nothing here, nothing to see with the XMR price divergences. XMR versus gold, looking pretty good, I guess, right? Looking better than we were down here. So overall, this chart looks like a consolidating range, right? This chart looks like, you know, maybe something going, you know, into the future where volatility is slightly constrained for some period of time before a breakout one way or the other. I don't know which one you want more, gold or XMR. Probably I wish for XMR to break out more because gold has enough market cap. Gold has plenty of market cap. Monero needs market cap now. Okay, so let's go. We kind of looked at BTC already. Let's see who's performing the best. Tron. Oh, TRX. We were just hating on Tron. And then Bitcoin Cash still doing up here. Bitcoin itself actually performing at the top. Monero has kind of had some general malaise when it comes relative to the rest of the price action on the rest of coins. Everything else actually seems to be slightly moving up for the past week or so, and Monero seems to be moving slightly down relative to its Z-scores. So yeah, again, unsurprising. There seems to be new liquidity setting up, and they're not going to push that to Monero. Why would they, right? So yeah, okay, sure, whatever. We'll get some price action afterwards. It'll just take a delay. It could be a few weeks, right? Maybe a month. We've seen it over and over again. If there's generally real, like genuinely buying pressure in these markets, Monero will follow suit. It's just a matter of time. Liquidity does spill over. So taking a look at Bitcoin dominance, hasn't changed much. It's just been on a steady march, guys. I don't know. I can't promise whenever this thing will stop. You know, we're also, here's another problem. You know, one thing the maxis were right about, it wasn't the network effects, but they were right about the price in a lot of ways, that it was going to get, Bitcoin was going to get the focus, and it did. It got BlackRock's focus, right? And so now the government has decided to have their reserves, and although they did have crypto reserves, so I don't know. It does seem like a lot of shitcoins are dying, and so that could be the motivation for this chart. Only a few will survive, right? There won't be the one, but a few will survive, and Monero's one of them. Ethereum's another one, probably Tron. Anything that Tether is significantly on is going to survive. Sol, no matter how much you hate Sol, there will always be a market for degenerate bullshit, and Sol meets that market. In fact, Ethereum would have a vastly higher market cap right now if it weren't for Sol. So if any Ethereum bros out there really actually like Ethereum and wonder where their price went, it went to Sol. That's what happened, and that was actually a really long-term miss on my part for years, and it took me a couple years to understand that was happening. I guess because I'm blind to shitcoins, guys, or I'm blind to meme coins. Like that's just, it's not in my mental model, and that's the market. But the market shows you where you're blind, right? Shows you where you didn't think about stuff. And I just underestimated the meme coin potential, and that Sol was going to be that thing. So, all right. At least we have at least that's my explanation. At least that's my excuse. All right, so we're looking here at the Bitcoin versus the NASDAQ in Q1, which is actually futures on NASDAQ, because we get more complete price history here. And NASDAQ has been performing quite well, but the thing is, it marches higher, inevitably higher over long time frames and slowly but surely, whereas Bitcoin just makes these massive gains. And so actually, despite the fact that the stock markets have been outperforming Bitcoin, you would hardly be able to say that you can see that on this chart. It's like, Bitcoin actually looks like it set new all-time highs last month, right? It set new all-time highs against the NASDAQ last month. And then, it's had a pullback, right? We had the macro crash. We didn't have, no, that wasn't this. That wasn't last month. But anyway, stock markets have been pumping, right? And Bitcoin has been kind of just, not really getting it up lately. But, this chart does look bullish. So probably this chart's going to make a new higher. It doesn't look like unequivocally bullish. It looks like mildly bullish, right? So, which would kind of make sense, diminishing returns and all. So why don't we just go ahead and take a look at the NASDAQ directly. Actually, let's check some of the XMR chats. We have a Shortwave Surfer XMR chat. Tux, if you want to put that on the screen. Shortwave Surfer tipped 10 cents, or however much that is in Monero, not something Monero. The helicopter was around the helicopter was around 1800 XMR. If it's 2000 now, that's a price rise. If it's 2000 now, that's a price rise. I don't think I understand. I think I'm just retarded. I'm sure
it was 1800 XMR when it was first posted, and they bumped it up to 2000 XMR.
Oh, okay. I missed that. Got it. Okay. I thought it was. Okay. And then also Shortwave Surfer tipped 10 cents. He says, body, why use USDT when DAI can't be frozen? Is that still the case? Can DAI still not be frozen? The guy that made DAI suicided under suspicious circumstances, or was murdered under suspicious circumstances in Puerto Rico after saying that he that they were after him, right? After saying that his girlfriend was an agent and that they were it was a crazy story. He posted all this shit, and then he turned up dead in the ocean in Puerto Rico. So yeah, that was the guy that made DAI. They backed their DAI with 60%, I think, USDC. Some changes were made, and I haven't kept up with it regarding DAI. I think it's still the case overall that your DAI, your individual DAI can't be frozen, right? They could obviously the stable coins by which it's backed, USDC, USDT, and a few others, that can be frozen by the issuers, even though it's in a contract. But yeah, I don't think they can freeze your DAI, but there's changes that are coming to DAI, that have come to DAI. I'm not quite sure what they are. I've sort of lost track of all that. So far, they haven't really done too much work to seize or freeze people's Tether or USDC. I'm sure they would if you were, persona non grata. Okay, we have HBS on YouTube says DAI's contract is not upgradable. So yes, it's still unfrozeable. Yeah, okay. Cool. Thanks, guys, for keeping me updated on that. I guess I should stay updated. I mean, I have some DAI, don't get me wrong. All right. Anyways, definitely recommend using DAI. And believe it or not, in a lot of cases, DAI has more liquidity on certain shitcoin pairs and ERC20 tokens on Ethereum. So, looking here at the NASDAQ, you can see we had a big week. Things just decided to go bigly for the past 2 weeks, up 5%, actually more, 6% in the past, about 2 weeks. So, after Iran was not going to be World War III, and now they've got this big, beautiful bill, which implies, big, beautiful liquidity coming into the markets. I think people are gonna people just, they believe, right? They're believers, and there's more liquidity, and also the people that speculate, and all the firms, like everybody just knows, right? And also the M2 money supply has been growing this whole time, and unfortunately we don't have a good M2 money supply. I think you have to be on Bloomberg Terminal or something that's like tens of thousands of dollars a year. The M2 money supply continues to grow. This chart is delayed, unfortunately. I wish that I had a chart. Maybe I should just like bite the bullet, spend the time figuring out how to estimate M2 money supply on my own, and see if I can pull in the statistics to estimate it here and have my own estimation, because it's scary, guys, how well, if the M2 money is growing, then the market's going to pump. Like, it's really that simple. So like Bitcoin's about to go up, everything's about to go up because the M2 money supply, the estimated version of this chart, that keeps up with real time, that M2 has continued growing. So it doesn't even matter if the Fed has been selling off their balance sheet. So that liquidity goes somewhere, and it's just going to keep going into markets, guys. So that's what we're looking at here. And until like something like super negative duper happens, like the Trump tariff strike down gets overturned at the appellate court, which is supposed to happen here in the coming weeks in July. If they continue to say that the Trump tariffs are struck down, then they will actually get removed. And that will be a big positive for the market as well. If they put the tariffs in place, then maybe we'll have to revisit and say, hey, macro crash could be back on. But for now, macro crash scare, 20% was enough for the market, 20% down for stocks. And then they said, fuck it, Liberation Day, we just don't need that much liberation. Stop liberating us so hard, Daddy. And so he did. Daddy actually came back and said, you know what? I won't liberate you as hard as you thought you were going to get liberated, and I'll just let the markets go up instead. So that's kind of what happened there. Don't worry about it, right? Like, we still have these patterns, right? I'm still noticing the patterns of, how things, like, if we, Jay Powell says they're going to start lowering rates again at some point this year. So if this keeps going, maybe it just, I don't know, they could just extend and pretend, right? That's one of the things that they do. But ultimately, this thing, the pattern is for this thing to come to the downside eventually. And we're going to see, the next crash thingy happening. But for now, not a problem, right? For now, don't even worry about it. Like, forget about it, guys. Like, this whole macro crash thing, that was enough, apparently. So we'll just put that on hold, right? We'll put that on the shelf for now. We can always pull that back off the shelf if we need to. So let's see. We got the reverse repos here. We're pivoting here to the macro. We got the reverse repos, and this does seem to me like, again, it wants to go to the upside, right? So I got to think more about this. Bonds are tricky. They have these like feedback and feed forward mechanisms. They can like, and it's not a bond. I know reverse repos are not bonds, but they act like bonds in a way. But yeah, we've got kind of this uptrend that is now sort of sustained, very mild, but we are now starting to break out of the lower standard deviation bands, right? These bands are important, and seeing this guy right here, seeing that spike, again, maybe this thing could just come down here and do that. This could just be a nothing chart, right? A nothing burger chart. But, if we see this, that could indicate problems or troubles. It just, if anything, it indicates people don't want to buy long-term bonds. They want the short-term overnight rate. Usually that happens, because of the yield curve inversion, which is significantly corrected now. So maybe that's just kind of nothing. It could just be sometimes institutions need to park some extra money in a place, and they want to. It could be that they moved out of bonds, right? It could be that some institutions are selling bonds and they're pivoting into short-term rates, waiting for, trying to decide what they want to buy, what kind of things they want to purchase on the market, what kinds of risk they would like to take. So yeah, maybe that's an explanation there. Again, I'm not super convinced about how relevant the reverse repos are to us at this moment. For really being able to divine much about the markets, right? They're relevant in context, just keep it in your mind. If you're not sure about something, you still look at it, right? You say, hey, this was important at one point. Let's keep looking at it. Maybe we don't have any clear things to, clear conclusions to draw from it, but it's a data point. Keep it in your mind. Okay, gold is doing fine. Gold is consolidating here at the top side, 3,300. Okay, we have the peak here at 3,500. It's, guys, if we're setting this macro crash idea on the shelf and markets are pumping here, then the pattern is very clear. Like what has happened in the past has now happened. And if we think that markets could continue going up here for the next, let's just say, year or so, I don't know. I'm not saying that's my conclusion here. I'm just saying, let's hypothetically pretend that for a moment. What happened? Gold ran first, as it always does, made some nice big high. It hit exactly the levels that some of my statistics that I look at. This purple line here is an incredible level. It just works. I don't know why, it just does. We hit that level. Now gold is flat and sideways as markets continue to run. It would be entirely unsurprising if that was the top, guys. This would be entirely unsurprising if gold tops here and then does this over long periods of time. You just need to know that in my mind, that is a very significant possibility. I'm not necessarily convinced it has to be, because my hopium and my gold bags don't want that to be the case, right? So I want to keep holding on. I don't want to stop believing, but I mean, if I'm just going strictly off patterns, that's the pattern, guys. We hit the top. Gold is basically topped. I still like the way the price action is consolidating, to be honest. Like, you still have this big uptrend. You're still consolidating in this rising triangle. Like, if gold does that, if gold breaks this purple line right here, that will be a sign to me that inflation is probably looming on the horizon. It won't hit us yet, but I mean, you just can't run financials continuously and repeatedly and then expect that inflation isn't going to catch up to you at some point. And that's what happened with the C word. So, all right. Anyways, I hope that gold does break my models, right? All your models are going to be broken, bro. I hope so. I really genuinely hope so with gold here. Okay. Let's see. Global liquidity, nothing important happened there. Oil, obviously. How could we forget oil? Yeah, they did the Iran thing. They got the oil up. Yeah, it came back down, but it's still higher than it was. So Iran was, honestly, guys, it was probably a market thing. Hey, we could do some insider trading on the news. We can get the oil price up. Hell, maybe even Iran likes it, right? Maybe like, hey, could you just like bomb us like a little bit? Because we also sell oil, and if the oil price goes up, like, for all we know, guys, literally that could have happened. I actually, like, don't get me wrong, I don't see it as a monolithic entity out there that's controlling the entire globe, right? It's not the Jays. It's not the Chinese either. These are psychopaths, and they have overlapping interests and sometimes strange bedfellows. And so they are fighting for control and power. You can bet your ass that the ancient Chinese dynasties, as they are, they're generational, I don't know, they're kids today, right? Like, those guys don't want to give up their power, and they don't want to just accept United States rule over them. And neither do the Russian oligarchs, neither do the big finance bros, the deep state of the United States. Like, none of these guys want to be like, oh yeah, sure, you can have all the power and control the world. So they fight with each other. Of course they do, but they also cooperate where necessary, right? It's weird that I have to even say that. Like, don't get locked into a monolithic mindset that says like, oh, everything's controlled. It's not, right? That's just a psyop. Anyways, so it's very possible that Iran even liked the bombing. They're like, it's fine, bomb some old underground bunkers, whatever. I'm not saying that's exactly what happened, but hey, I'm just speculating out here. I'm just like trying to come up with some entertaining possibilities, because a better oil price, certainly it's going to help Iran's economy, right? I don't know about getting bombed all the time, but getting bombed by Israel, but maybe that doesn't help their economy, but at least the oil price helped them a little bit, I'm sure. So yeah, anyways, oil sitting here. I don't know. It still looks kind of anemic after all's been said and done. It still doesn't look like super, super good, but I guess it's fine. It's kind of just hanging out here at these lows. And oil has been at these lows here for like over a year. So it's probably not a problem. Especially if we go back, let's go to the weekly. Right? Especially if you go backwards a little bit, like it's not a huge deal, right? Obviously, this was when the economy caught a cold and price of oil went negative, but overall, like this isn't a terrible place for oil price. This is a little bit low considering the inflation, right? If this was an inflation adjusted chart, this would look a little bit different. Anyways, yeah. So I guess that's oil. That's oil for you guys. I guess I don't have any like special super duper insightful conclusions for you today, but. Let's see. Oh, Monero hash rate's been pretty cool. We've it's been slowly, steadily climbing towards the top side. So that was good. Interesting. We had the launch. We assumed that that Tari was a big factor there. Had a little bit of pullback, but now it seems to be recovering to the top side. So we're above 5 gigas now. We're holding above 5 gigas. This has been the case for like 2 months, pretty much on average, at least. That's good, right? That's really good. So we need more hash rate. I want to see. I don't know, let's just say 8x more hash rate at this point, right? I would love to see 8x more hash rate. That puts us significantly beyond. It's really hard to attack the network via hash rate. with a 10x hash rate, at 40 giga hashes or whatever. That's going to be way harder to attack the network. So I definitely would want to see that. I guess, did we miss the privacy coins? Yeah, we did miss the privacy coins. Honestly, I don't even know why we cover them. There's just nothing going on here. Yeah, there's nothing ever happens in privacy coins. Whoa. Okay, so I guess Xano taking a breather. This looks like constraining volatility, right? These bands are becoming stronger. Price is staying within certain bounds, and it seems to be setting higher lows and lower highs. And probably the name of the game on Xano here is consolidation for some period of time. Maybe we can figure out when it's going to pump again. I probably won't tell you though, because you'll have to make your own decisions. I'm not going to be the reason that Xano pumps. I don't think. Maybe we're moving beyond that here at this point. I don't know. Does seem kind of low liquidity coin though to me. Firo, I don't know. I probably never pronounced it correctly. Also flat, doing nothing. Pirate Chain, flat, doing nothing. Right, nothing has changed since last week. Pirate Chain tends to not do much. It tends to just be flat, and then occasionally it'll get a pump. Zcash hasn't done much either. Seems to be consolidating slightly towards the downside, if anything. Right, it seems to be like slightly consolidating downwards as Bitcoin and Monero seems to be consolidating upwards. Okay, not even going to look at the D coin. Grin doing something. Grin smiling at price here. That's 270%. Holy shit. Wow, man, if you'd have got in here. What? Really? It's a weekly? Let's go to the daily. Dang, man, all you had to do is buy a month ago for 3.5x gain. Holy crap, guys. All right. I don't know where to get Grin. It's probably too late. I don't buy into things that pump. I'd get in before, right? That's the that just limits your risk. If you get in before and it dies, you're like, oh, well. But if you get in before the pump and then it pumps, you're like, all right, sweet, I got gains. And if you get in now, your risk profile is just drastically increased when you chase into pumps. Yeah, it can work. I'm not saying it can't work. I'm just saying that your risk profile increases as you do that. And for managing your money, right? So there's a difference between trading and managing your money. If you're trading, then you might chase into pumps sometimes, depending on the conditions. But if you're managing your money, you don't typically want to chase into pumps. The only pumps you should ever chase into are pretty much the stock market, and sometimes Bitcoin, right? Especially if there's new liquidity flowing. But you just don't chase into pumps with your main stack, with your investment stack. That's not how you manage your money. You just occasionally, 0 to a few times a year, you move money around. When you get imbalanced, you reallocate, you rebalance. And then you look for little opportunities, right? The housing market crashed, buy a house, right? Everything is giddy, sell something, right? Sell into some more stable asset. Gold has been anemic for a decade, buy gold, right? That's kind of how you got to look at that. You make big headliner broad decisions. So, okay, I don't think I have anything else. Let's check the questions one more time here. Russian bourgeoisie, no threat to the world. No, that's true. Yeah, they're not. They're just like Russia is cool in concept, but so this is Negros on YouTube. He said the Russian bourgeoisie is no threat to the world. Yeah, I mean Russia is cool as a concept, and like a lot of their mentalities are pretty cool, and the Russians that I know are all pretty fucking cool. But as a power, they got the nuclear arsenal, but they don't really have that much power projection. The one thing they can do is send a lot of dudes to die for whatever battle that they want to engage in the moment. Like they've lost nearly 500,000 people. Half a million young men have lost their lives in Ukraine fighting on Russia's behalf. And Ukraine has lower losses, but as a percentage of their population, it's higher. And then Russia has another 500 million casualties, guys that didn't die, but were wounded or whatever. So that's a lot, right? It's a fuckload, right? Russia only has like 130 million people or something like that, 150 million people. So, but yeah, Russia is not really, their bourgeoisie is not a threat to the world. They're not going to take over anytime soon. But at the same time, it seems like, hey, they don't want to be conquered either.